Free
those thoughts.
Free us.
So I mentioned earlier how I said that I kind of thought this show was a combination of like 3 other shows that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
So I figure let's kick this off with maybe recommendations a little bit. And I'd say that like if you really liked this, honestly, maybe I'd recommend those 3 shows. I said that this kind of reminded me of a combination of them. So I said Oron for kind of a lot of the joking and the debt and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said Yukoku no Moriarty for the kind of darker like Sherlock Holmes aspect, because Yukoku no Moriarty is about Moriarty, as in, Sherlock Holmes. And it's more on a kind of detective and crime solving, but except he's the one helping commit the perfect crimes and that kind of thing. And then Babylonia, because this has more of it's less of a Grail war. It's not like Fate Stay Night or, but we do get to see, some servants, and we get we even get to see some sections like where we're looking at the history. Like we get to see Iskandar's troops riding through places,
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Iskandar and his noble phantasm and his Hetai or whatever. So, I'd say those 3 shows, but then I wouldn't necessarily be able to suggest any others because I don't watch a lot of whodunit shows, and this is basically a whodunit show.
Don't you mean a why-done-it show?
They say both. They say whodunit and why-done-it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because they're using whodunit for the person and why-done-it for the motive.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you could possibly watch, this is a bit of a prerequisite. You should probably watch Fate Zero before this, just because Waver's arc sort of begins there in Iskandar.
Mm-hmm.
So you're missing out on a little bit of Waver's character arc if you don't watch that first. Yeah. That being said, if you don't like Fate Zero, it's because it's not up your alley. I know I love Fate Zero, but I know it's not these two's alley as much.
Yeah, but you don't have to like this show.
No, if you didn't like it, just get through it and come to this show, because this show is very much...
Honestly, I probably would have preferred watching this first and just seeing the flashbacks, and then kind of would entice me more so, there's this whole other character development that's already happened, let me go see how this turned out.
It's possible that could work, but I honestly, no way if that would.
I'll be rewatching Fate Zero this coming week because I don't remember enough, apparently. I have forgotten a lot.
I'm glad you like Iskandar and Waver a lot more now, though, because they're my favorite characters from Fate Zero.
It's a good dynamic, though. I think that's what I missed in Fate Stay Night 2006, especially, is there's no dynamic between the spirits and their summoners, with the exception of fucking Saber and Shiro. And
I'll say this, that show is pretty unique in that, at least as far as the ones that are really focused on the spirits go.
Yeah. I like seeing the actual character play between a servant and a spirit, because they're spending time together. What are they doing? Just walking in silence and never interacting except for fighting? No. They're interacting, and seeing that gives more context for the character.
As for where to go from here, not whether or not where to go from here, I actually, even though it's not my favorite Fate show, I do recommend Apocrypha, since a lot of these characters show back up again in Apocrypha as major players.
And it's very much also much more of a spin-off than any of the other mainline Fates. So. And
maybe skip season 3, and if anything looks too vile, skip to the next episode. But the Magical Girl show does give you more Luvia and some Clock Tower stuff. I just wouldn't recommend it.
It's really bad, apparently.
It's not bad. It's actually pretty high quality. A little too high quality for what it should be.
Is it on the same level as Magical Girl Ore?
Magical Girl is a much more tolerable show.
That's saying something. That show is...
Maybe one day in a separate thing, I'll talk more about my thoughts on that show, so I don't have to submit it, but that's not... And then lastly, if you really like the that big last arc and how they kind of lead in with all the Mystic Eye stuff, the movie Garden of Sinners, which we're going to watch the first one at a later date, that one plays a lot around with that stuff too. So,
also, so you texted me a warning and an apology about dead things.
Zombie cooking.
That's what the warning. I could not. I literally watched the show. I couldn't. So I don't do rotting flesh, right, of any sort. I'm absolutely no go on anything involving horror, jump scares, rotting flesh, that kind of thing. So like NikNak texted me an apology and like a warning, but he didn't say what for, and I literally have not been able to figure it out. I did not realize till just now when you said it. Because it's
such a small throwaway gag.
Yeah.
I completely forgot it was in the series.
Yeah. If anything, the part that kind of got me the worst is when so it's when he's in Iran and they're in that cavern below, and the pink power or whatever like sucks the life out of those dudes, and they kind of fall, and there's just like a dead kind of half mummified face in the screen for a second. If anything, that was the worst part of the show for me. But it was also like 2 seconds, so I was like, is this what he was trying to warn me about?
Zombie cooking!
That was fucking hilarious. I love that.
He's just like,
he's like throwing knives.
It's such a throwaway some of the character who never shows up again.
I know, and he was like flipping steak. That steak looked so good. That was like Ghibli level food porn.
Yeah.
Fate loves itself some food porn.
Yeah, that was great. Which is why we're going to eventually watch the Fate cooking show.
Oh, eventually.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yes. Yeah, no, I brought it up because I could not figure out what you were trying to warn me.
Zombie.
No, that was like Scooby-Doo, where's my mummy zombies? That wasn't even on the
I need that to
like,
actually
Zombie
be a
Island.
joke, like 3-minute an episode series, though.
Right, I would totally tune in.
I totally forgot about that. I thought you were talking about like those dark spirits, and it's like those are zombies.
Oh no, I wasn't talking about that. I'm pretty sure she's mostly okay with ghosts, that they're not played up in a huge horror sense.
Ghosts are fine.
Yeah.
Ghosts are incorporeal. I have no issue with ghosts. I just go and blow them away.
That's not what you said in the D&D campaign.
Yeah, well, in the D&D campaign, I was blind and had no way to fight the ghosts. It has since been revealed to me that apparently I should have been able to see them all along with my eyes.
Whoops. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on, DM. So also, now I get the whole Mystic Eye thing more after this show.
Yeah.
I liked that because I wasn't quite understanding when we talk about it in D&D and stuff like that, but I like the whole Mystic Eye thing going on with the train and everything. Actually, low-key, I was expecting something way more shady from like the Mystic Eye train. I was expecting like this whole ass black market in like kidnapping mages, ripping out their eyeballs and then reselling them. It was surprisingly clean and kosher. Like, I was low-key very...
Once you get past the fact where they stick their hands in your eyeballs and like blood,
well, yeah,
like
but
very
like, he
painful.
didn't die, and he had chosen to do it. I was like low-key in my head going into that. I had the thought that this is an underground organization like a black market where they kidnap and or kill mages, rip their eyes out, and then resell them for value.
Oof.
Like, that was what I was thinking going into it.
Also, so one other like tangent now that I think about it, I forgot to bring up. It was I actually do like the Holy Church versus like the actual mages. How basically they're in opposition to each other, and yet fundamentally, like in their practices, they're not actually all that different in the way they like operate.
And they work together at times.
Yeah.
Do you remember that in Fate Zero, there was that flashback episode for Kiritsugu where both the church, the Mages Association, and the church both raided the island?
Yeah.
And they're both doing pretty much the exact same shit for different reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
I love the church.
Yeah. Like they preach the righteousness of God, but then
they're going to stab you with a fucking knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also cover up information and work with the mages to keep information covered up.
Yeah.
So, like the Great War.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. You don't want that thing getting out there.
So that was interesting.
But so long as no one lives and tells the tale, that's fine.
Yeah.
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 All right. So.
Actually,
Also,
I have a recommendation. Like it's kind of like if you like detective shows and you're really expecting more detective work, maybe Detective Conan, but.
Yeah, I mean, also, okay, you know what? If you like this, you could probably watch Black Butler as well, because it's got the whole kind of nobility in England, detective.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little different, obviously, but it's got a similar vibe to it.
It does, honestly, like, especially some of the characters.
Yeah, it's got a very similar vibe with, like, a kind of hidden society of, like the death gods and stuff, like the Reapers. and that kind of stuff. So you could definitely do that.
Yeah.
Also, I wanna kudos to T.H.E for like creating a pocket in space to hold her own severed head so that no one else would get a hold of it.
Yeah.
Fucking kudos.
Like, oh, I'm gonna die. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, like low-key, that was pretty badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
don't know how or when I'm gonna die, but I'm just gonna put my head in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome.
Well, actually, no. She knew how. She just didn't know when.
She also kind of knew when. She knew it was
Yeah, no,
gonna
she
happen.
pretty much knew exactly. That's how
No,
she
because
did
it
it.
wasn't a permanent pocket. She literally created it just then, right before her head was taken off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she knew when and how,
Yeah.
but not who or if she could prevent it.
Yeah.
Last thing before we go, I guess, if you like this series, I of course recommend you go back and read the novels, especially because right now, as far as mainline Fate goes, Melloi stuff, like it's not this series, because this series is technically a midquel between Fate Zero and Stay Night, but there's a sequel series to this that takes place after Stay Night that's pretty much the same thing, and that is pretty much the future of the mainline Fate as it is now. So if you like the series, I recommend reading the novels. Realm thought that it was about Kiritsugu Emiya, not Shiro.
Oh, okay.
Actually, so other question. In relatively, where does this take place in the Fate timeline? Like, it obviously takes place like after Zero, but
So-
how close does it take place to like Stay Night?
Well, it's 10 years after Zero.
Okay.
It literally takes, like, they've already, so that first, not the zero, episode 0, the
Mhm.
first episode where it's where Waver's going through the desert
Yeah.
and goes to Kardak, right? Was it Kardak? No.
No, that he's in Iran.
Yeah.
Iran. He was in Iran.
That
Waver
was
in Iran.
directly after.
That was
wasn't it?
like basically like months after Fate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Everything else takes place
10 years later.
10
Like-
years.
That's what they said.
Okay.
everything else takes place pretty much leading right into Fate's Stay Night. Like to the point where there's a part where they throw pictures on the table of the Mage's representatives. Those are both two dead people who get killed at the beginning of Stay Night. You don't really get much on in Stay Night, but get expanded upon in
I
other
thought they
materials.
looked familiar.
So the
haven't
Stay
seen
Night,
either of
so
them
the
yet.
Stay Night Grail War has already happened by this
It's
point.
starting. Like at this
Starting.
point,
Oh, it's starting.
I'm
Starting
pretty
or-
sure
Okay.
Caster's already been summoned.
Okay.
Crew might have been summoned at that point too, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It was not a happy summoning.
No.
So yeah,
Okay. So, speaking in terms of ending the episode and our polls for the next 2 weeks. So, because Realm has incredibly terrible luck, we're not actually going to poll for the next 2 episodes coming out. He just gets the next 2 episodes coming out.
Yay!
Yeah.
And he's already decided which 2 shows he wants, but which one would you like to watch first?
What did I decide on?
Overlord and Goblin Slayer.
Okay. We'll do Overlord Season 2 first.
All right.
Okay, so next week we'll be watching Overlord Season 2, and 2 weeks after that we'll be watching Goblin Slayer.
Yes.
And then you get the start of something special.
Yeah!
It's a movie.
Thanks for ruining the surprise board.
Spoilers!
Try harder than Vorn, everyone.
Just remove that from the recording.
Try harder, everyone.
Just bleep it.
Please.